You're going to get a ton of value out of this interview. Um, so the person I'm interviewing, his name is Mark Daniels, and I was actually on his podcast the other day, which went really well. What's good?
I think we're good now.
Okay,
We'll just have to go with this.
Cool. So how you feeling, brother? How was your day, man?
I was good. I worked a few hours, had the boys working, and I come home and did some things and got ready for your interview here.
Nice. All right, fellas, so let's go ahead and get it started. This is the Masculine Throne. Today we have a special guest, Mark Daniels. He is an author. He consults men, helps men overcome their challenges in life. I actually was on a podcast the other day, The Power is Within. We were talking about masculinity and how a man can basically be the most attractive version of himself. I actually read his book right here, Coming Back Home. Excellent book. Basically, it describes his life story, the adventures he's been on, the challenges he's overcome, many failures, including marriage, multiple marriages, trauma, alcoholism, drug abuse, just negative situations, problems with other guys, fights, anything you could think of, he's been through it. So I really was inspired to bring him on. He also has another book called Power is Within, which I'm reading right now. It kind of talks about how you can change your outer world by changing your inner world, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. So without further ado, my special guest, Mark Daniels. What's up, brother?
Oh, just glad to be here. Appreciate you inviting me. I'm honored that you would like to have me on your show.
Cool, man. So let's start it off with this, brother. What inspired you to start helping men? Start giving advice. Consulting, writing a book, even starting a podcast. What inspired you to do all of this?
Well, it started a long time ago. Back when I was about 30, I lived the life of a player, and I hit about, I guess it was 29 or 30, I hit a bottom, and ended up in my apartment by myself, and kind of got to where drinking wasn't any fun anymore, and looked at myself in the mirror, and I kind of hated what I saw. And I walked into my room, and I remember I was by myself in my apartment. I thought, here you are, all alone, because all you've ever thought about your whole life was yourself. I knew how I got there, and so from that time on, it was a slow growth, but I started reaching out to help others. I started looking within to find out how I ended up by myself and what brought me there and the troubles that I was in at the particular moment. So as years passed, I realized that I had to continue to help other people if I wanted to feel good, as where before it was always, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? I never helped anybody unless I had a motive of, I'm going to get something back from this person specifically, or they owe me some loyalty or something like that. So, and I moved on and did that for quite a few years, helping people just on the, I guess I would say on a personal level. And later on, I had moved out of the country, and when I came back, I run into an old friend of mine, and I was telling him my story, and he said I should write a book, and I thought, well, I don't know about that. It didn't seem too exciting to me, but he thought it was. So a few years later, after my parents passed away, well, probably 7 or 8 years later, I'd gone through some more difficulties on a personal level, and I started writing. I decided to write it myself, and I had it published. And about a little while before I had it published, over a year ago, I had started a YouTube channel, and this was all born out of I'd gone through some more emotional difficulties, and through the years, people had told me that I should write a book or my life should be a movie. And so I started using that to help people, using my experiences like I'd learned long ago to help other people. I had a mentor once, years ago, probably 30 years ago. I was over at his house crying about a girl that dumped me, and he said, well, when you get big and strong, he said, you'll just pass it on just like I've passed it on to you, he said. So So that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm passing it on like he passed it on to me, what I've learned in life.
Nice, nice. So what I find interesting and I actually really believe in is talk about, basically the answers are within. The power is within. We're a lot of us are basically looking outside of ourselves for happiness, outside of ourselves for
Exactly.
joy, for love, for all things. And you say that it's all within, which I agree with. Can you kind of go into that a little bit? What exactly you mean by that?
Okay, I believe if you would look back over your life objectively, and I always say take the word blame out of your life, okay, and look at everything that's happened to you. If you can look at it objectively and think about what you were thinking about during these times where things were good and times when things were bad, you'll see how your thinking and your dominant thinking, not passing thought, but your dominant thinking brought these things about in your life. Let's say, for example, you were going out with the girl of your dreams. Everything was going great for a while, and you started becoming afraid that she was cheating on you. And you started looking for that. You started thinking about it. When in reality, she wasn't cheating on you at all. But your fear of her doing that brought this to come to pass because you were thinking about her cheating. You started imagining her cheating, and you took actions to actually push her into cheating on you. Many things like that in your life. When you're successful, usually you're thinking successful thoughts, and you have been thinking successful thoughts. Belief is like a magnet, or faith, we'll say faith or belief is a magnet. So is fear. Fear brings to you what you don't want. It attracts the same as faith or belief. Belief brings to you what you do want. So I learned in life that everything that I ever wanted, I dreamed about having it, and not just a passing dream, but actually saw myself doing it. For example, I always wanted to be a motorcycle guy, like on Easy Rider. It was a movie in '69. And I dreamed about that for 5 or 6 years. By the time I was 17, I was just like those guys. I wanted to be a tough guy, so I became a street fighter. I found the toughest guy around. He'd knock me down, beat me up, till I learned how to fight. And I became an amateur and professional boxer. I always wanted to be a tough guy. I wanted to have a big family. Now, I didn't quite make the 15 kids, but I have 6 kids, and I've raised them by myself for about the last 10 years. So, and when I was younger, too, I loved women, so I thought about being with women all the time. And by the time I was 15 or 16, I had all the high-end women around where I was at for years. I did that till I was about 30 years old. I was even married and had a steady girlfriend and a not-so-steady girlfriend, plus a lot of other girls I was running around with. And I don't recommend that because I was lying to my wife about it, but that's what I was doing. And but it was like I had somewhat of a harem when it comes to women. But that was something I thought about a lot because I loved being with women. Now, granted, I went about that in the wrong way. A person can do that without lying to his steady woman or his wife, but I chose to lie, and I paid the consequences of the price for that. So,
Got you. So let me ask you this, bro. This group is called the Masculine Throne. So a lot of guys in this group are interested in becoming more masculine. So what would be your advice to a guy that's his goal? Like he wants to become more masculine and he wants to kind of channel that masculinity into, his wealth goals, into becoming more powerful as a man and becoming more attractive to women.
go out and climb a tree. That's kind of a joke, but I don't see kids climbing a tree nowadays. Go out and get your hands dirty. Do something. Go get punched in the face. Go learn karate. Get into some kind of a contact sport. Men like to be challenged, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like getting punched in the head to make you feel like a man. I mean, I've been punched tens of thousands of times, and sometimes it hurts, but there's something about that. Men, I think, are natural warriors. Maybe not all of them, but in general, are natural warriors. You need to find something that stretches you. I mean, it could be mountain climbing, anything that's dangerous. I believe we've become so comfortable here in the U.S., at least, that we don't take risks. Think about this. We've made everything so safe. A man has to go bungee jump. There's something you can do. Or he has to parachute to find some excitement, to take a risk, because you're not sure what's going to happen. You think you're going to be okay, but there's always that chance that you may not be. So my advice would be is to take a risk. Take some risks. You're going to fail. But the pathway to success is paved with failure. Don't be afraid to fail. They teach us in school that it's bad to fail, but it's not. You have to fail to succeed.
So one of the questions I get a lot from guys is how to deal with the fear of rejection, or how to just deal with rejection in general, like hearing the word no, or you actually trying but just constantly failing, or just things just not going away. Like how do you overcome the fear of rejection? How do you overcome the resistance, and how do you stay positive when a bunch of shit is just not going your way?
Well, that's hard sometimes. I know everybody gets a little discouraged or sometimes depressed. I've suffered from some depression, but what you got to do, you just got to make yourself get up and do it again. You just got to put one foot in front of the other. We say trudge the road of happy destiny. Sometimes you're not skipping along happily. You got to trudge that road. But as far as rejection goes, and I'm sure most of your guys have heard this, but rejection is not personal. It really has nothing to do with you. But we take it that way. Let's talk about an example. Let's say I walk up to this hot-looking girl. I say, hey, what's up? She looks at me like, what the hell you want? Okay, who knows? Maybe her mom's dying of cancer. Maybe she came home last night and found her boyfriend sleeping with her best friend. Maybe she flunked out in one of her college classes. I mean, any number of things is possible for the reason, and maybe her time of the month. If you've been with a lot of women, they'll tell you, I've had several of them tell me, don't pay any attention to me. It's my days. It's my time of the month. So you never know. Just because she rejects you doesn't mean, failure is not final. You just keep trying, as you know from cold approach. But what I do usually is I wait for a little indicator of interest. I seldom approach somebody unless I get some kind of indicator of interest. But that's not always effective, or that's not always, how do I say, truthful either, because I was on the job here about 2 weeks ago, about last week, I guess, but when I was down there 2 weeks before that, there was a good-looking girl out in the parking lot. She smiled at me. Anyway, we conversed back and forth, had a great time. I asked her to come up, but she's got a boyfriend, but we joked around about us sneaking off I said, her and I should have a tryst. She said, what's a tryst? And I'm not even sure if that's the proper pronunciation, but I said, it's a secret rendezvous. And she said, oh, you're bad, Mark. Anyway, but she's committed to her boyfriend, but I was still playing with her. And next time I seen her again, said the same thing to her again. I said, hey, you've probably been thinking about that before you go to sleep tonight, haven't you, about that rendezvous? And she was laughing about it, and I said, hey, the Caribbean sounds really good right now, because it was starting to get cold here. And she laughed and started singing Aruba, Jamaica, that song. She started singing that. So we were having a good time. Girls want to have fun. Okay, and what I'm getting to here was there was a hot-looking blonde working there, too. And I'd passed her a couple times. We're outside, and I thought she was standoffish. She would look down at her phone. But I happened to go in there to pick up a check, and she was in there, and she didn't have my check. So I started giving her a hard time about not having my check. And she started laughing. I said, you better have my check when I come back in there. She said, well, I have it pretty soon. I said, I'm going to punish you. And she kind of laughed. We're joking around. When you talk to a girl, you got to make some kind of sexual, you don't say it overtly, but you let them know that you're interested in them in a sexual way. That's why so many of these guys get friend zoned. They're afraid to show their sexual interest. And you can do that without ever saying anything about it directly, just the way you look at them, the way you smile at them, and different things like that. But the reason I brought that girl up is because I thought she was standoffish, but she wasn't at all. Once I got talking to her, she was actually open for conversation and joking around. So the point is, we don't always know when we approach a girl what's going on in her world. It could be any number of 1,000 things besides, she may think you're the best looking guy in the world, but she may just not be in the mood. So maybe she just got fired. Maybe she went to the interview and it went terribly. You have no idea.
Okay, so let's say you have a guy who he went most of his life with pretty much barely any results with women. So let's say maybe he's only been maybe on one date or so. He doesn't have much experience, and he wants to make a change. He wants to make a big change. He wants to go from zero to hero. What steps would you give him? Because I kind of have my system that I teach guys on how to make that transition, because I did it for myself. What kind of advice do you give guys who are trying to basically go from one side of the spectrum to the other side? What steps do you give them?
Okay, first I would try to find out where they're at. Are they sociable? Can they go out and talk to people? Maybe they can talk to people easily. Unless they meet a beautiful girl, maybe they freeze up there. It just depends where they're at. But let's say they have social anxiety, which is a popular phrase now. The first thing I tell them is to get up every morning, look in the mirror, and talk to yourself in the mirror like you mean it, as the person you want to be. Maybe you'd say, I'm outgoing, I'm magnificently attractive. That's what I use. Whether anybody else believes it or not, it doesn't matter. It's none of my business what you think of me. It's only my business what I think of myself and what I think of you, because that's the only thing that affects me. What you think of me does not affect me. So what we think of ourselves is very important. We need to believe we're attractive. We need to believe we're the man or the Chad or whatever the word is they use now, the player, the Casanova, the PUA, I think is a word they use. We just called it being the man back in the day. You need to believe that. So what I'm going to tell you is you got to convince yourself of that before anybody is going to be convinced of that themselves. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody's going to believe in you. So I say every day you get up and look in the mirror and tell yourself you are what you want to be, and say it as you are that now. Okay? Also, write your goals down, view them at least twice a day, say them with emotion. Now, a lot of people say these things don't work. Well, you wouldn't go to the gym, work out for a week, 2 weeks, and think, well, gee, I'm not as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger. What's the problem? But yet people do the same thing with affirmations, visualization, and things like that. So to answer your question, first you have to work on the within. Now there are actions you have to take also, but you combine these all together. Once you start feeling a little confident, then you go out there and start talking to people. Talk to the good-looking girl at the gas station. Just, I don't know, flirt with her a little bit. Flirting is nothing more than just, hey, did you give me enough money? I think you shorted me. I bet that's how you make your real money, isn't it? You keep a little bit, you dig in the till, don't you? I mean, just anything like that. Joke around. Girls like to have fun. That's one thing you need to remember. Girls just want to have fun. You get too serious with them, they don't like that. So you just have to step out there and start doing something. If you can get a mentor, that would really help. When I was about 15, I got a mentor who showed me how to be with women. That's really valuable. But really, you have to do your own push-ups. I can't do them for you, and you can't do them for your clients.
Got you. Okay, so that's women. Now let's look at wealth, money, right? What advice do you have, guys that come to you with questions on like how to get their money right, like how to get their, I guess, like create wealth and create financial abundance? Like, do guys come to you for that?
Well, you know, when I tell somebody that would ask me that question, I would say, if you inherit $1 million, you better become a millionaire. And what I mean by that is it's all in consciousness. You take these guys that are very wealthy. I don't know if you know Grant Cardone. He's one. There's a lot of them out there, but you could take Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. You could take all their money away, and in a short time, they'd have it back. Why is that? Because wealth is not the money I have in my hands or what I have in my bank account. You have wealth consciousness. You know, a lot of people they think about money, but here's what they think about. I got to pay that rent. Man, that damn electric bill's high. And there's the water bill. Oh, jeez. Just don't seem like there's enough month for the money or money for the month or something, however they say it. They think about money, but they think about lack. There is no lack in the world. Man created lack with his thinking. Do you see a lack in the grass, the leaves, the trees, all that? There's no lack. There's no lack of oxygen either. We create lack with our thinking, the way we think about things. And it's not only in money. Let's say you're short on money. Maybe you're thinking that let's say you have a wife or a girlfriend. She's not giving me much attention. I don't know why she just doesn't pay attention to me anymore. She doesn't give me any sex, let's say. You're thinking about lack. That's going to spread in every aspect of your life. So first you have to get your mind right. You have to change your consciousness. Because it doesn't matter. You can get the best job in the world, and let's say you get a great job, you're making $100,000 a year. You will sabotage that unless you believe that you deserve it, unless you have the consciousness to correspond with that amount of income. You can take a salesman. They've done studies. Take a salesman in a $50,000 a year sales job, and that's what he does. Put him in $150,000 where he should make $150,000. He can't do it, because he doesn't have the consciousness. He has to raise his consciousness by working on himself and digging within and find out what's stopping him, and convincing himself or programming himself with affirmations, visualizations, and these things to be able to accept that much money. People can't accept that much. They think they can, but look at the history of lottery winners. Most of them were worse off financially after they got the money, after a couple of years after they won the millions of dollars, than they were before. So how do you explain that? It's in here. It's in the consciousness.
Got you. Okay, so you said raise your consciousness. Do you have specific steps for that? Because like for me, I'm kind of thinking of of what I do for that. I have a certain morning routine that's designed to basically get me in a certain state for the day. I follow that morning routine every day. I started meditating every single day, reading. I don't listen to certain things. I refuse to watch the news, and I won't have certain conversations. So what kind of advice do you give guys who are interested in spiritual growth, so raising their consciousness so they can attract these great things in their life?
Well, many of the things you said would be things I would recommend to someone. You need a routine, a morning routine and also you need to shut off the news. I agree. You don't want to watch the news because it's negativity. What does the news talk about? Lack. It talks about all the things that you really don't want in your life. And what you're trying to do is get your mind focused on what you do want and off of what you don't want. You cannot negate anything by not thinking about it, but you can replace it with a positive thought. So what you have to start doing is, first you need to write a goal. Less than 1% of the people have written goals. That's hard to believe. Oh, I have it in my mind. It's not the same thing, because when you write it down, it becomes tangible. It becomes real. And then it's like you're kind of responsible to make it happen. And if you don't, it's in your face. So one thing I say is to write down your goals, what you want in life. Okay, make a plan to achieve it, but allow that plan to be flexible, because you will never figure out how you're going to get there. There's a way that it will happen that you can't even imagine. There's a million ways you could get to your goal, but of course you have to have a plan, because you have to know what the first step is. And you need to look at that goal every morning and every evening. Usually when you get up in the morning and then right before you go to bed at night. And when you go to sleep at night, you want to think of yourself as the person that you want to be, that you think is going to take 10 years. But you want to think of it as if it is now, and try to get that feeling. The emotion, the feeling is the gasoline, or the propellant behind the power that will bring these things to you. But now, with that being said, if you start doing this day in and day out, it may take a month, it may take 6 months, depending on how big your goal is. You do this day in and day out, you will be given what they call opportunities, or bridges of incidences, which will turn you in the direction of your goal, or will lead you. But you have to step over, you have to cross over these bridges, and it takes courage, because it's always going to be fear. Fear is what's going to stand between you and your goals. You will have the opportunities to achieve your goals, and it may not even look like it's in the direction of your goal, but you've got to do it. You got to step through the fear, because on the other side of fear is what you desire. It's your fantasy, or your dream, or your vision. You have to have a vision. Without a vision, people are like a ship on the ocean without a rudder. They're just aimlessly going everywhere. Moved by this news story, by the stock market, by this other thing. Even during times when the economy has just been destroyed and fallen apart, people still became rich. Why is that? So is it the economy, or is it the consciousness of the people?
Got you. So a specific question just popped in my head. Somebody asked me recently, so I'm curious. I've read your book. I know that you've had a lot of experience with a lot of different beautiful women. So I'm sure you would be able to answer this question. But basically, let's say you have a guy who he can't approach women, so he has no problem approaching women. But his issue is when he gets a number, a lot of times they'll flake, or they'll say, hey, they'll agree to a date, but then they won't show up, or they'll give a fake number. Like, they can approach, but they can't really create that attraction, that powerful attraction. Or maybe they get it going, but then they can't keep it going. So what is your advice for guys like that?
Well, girls flake, and a lot of times that too has nothing to do with them. But I suppose if every girl is flaking on you, there's got to be something wrong with your approach. Or I would have to say, women are intuitive. Men have intuition too, but women are extremely intuitive. So you may walk up there and you may be the best looking guy there is, but if you don't have that inner strength, they can pick up on that stuff. If you're afraid, I'm not talking about nervous, but if you're not the man you present yourself to be, they will catch it right away. That's why I'm not a big uh, proponent of game. I mean, I believe in game, but the game you have to be the game. You may have all the techniques. I know people teach those, and they have their place. If you use those long enough, you start to gain confidence, especially if you have a little success. So what I would have to say with the guy who's approaching and continues to fail, I would tell him to go back, start visualizing yourself approaching a girl and her smiling and reciprocating to you, or responding to you warmly and lovingly, and see that over and over and over again. And then whatever needs to be changed, because if you can't figure out what it is, it will change. It will be done for you. According to your belief, it is done to you. You don't have to make it happen. It's done to you. So you have to believe that, and you can believe it by seeing it over and over and over again in your mind. But what's probably happening is this guy is seeing himself being rejected over and over and over again. You have to deny the evidence of your senses, which is every girl I talk to rejects me. Another thing too is, what are you saying? Are you saying every girl that I talk to rejects me? Even if it's happening, you have to stop that. Every girl I talk to loves me. She wants to go out with me. When I talk to her, she's just like so nervous and her face is red and she can't wait to be with me. I mean, that sounds ridiculous, but all brainwashing is that they do when they catch people in, like when they're in the service or in a war. They tell someone a lie over and over and over again, and they get them in an emotional state, and they do it long enough to where this person comes to believe it. If you affirm something over and over and over again, daily, you're going to be in different emotional states throughout that day, and eventually you will come to believe that, and then the world will bear witness to your belief. I've experienced it. I didn't learn it on my own. I was taught it from some other people, and it happened. So it's all within you. Whoever's being rejected like that, he's rejecting himself. He could not be rejected by someone else unless he first rejected himself. If you understand that, if you can grasp that, you have the answer to all your problems. You cannot be devalued by someone else unless you first devalued yourself. We teach people how to treat us. People react to us how we are in here.
Got you. So, question I have for you, based on reading your book, I see that you went through some phases of drug abuse. You went through some phases when you were drinking a lot. I know a lot of people they go through that, and a lot of people just get stuck in that. How did you make such a big transition where you're able to get out of it? It sounds like you got out of it completely, and you were able to kind of just take more responsibility for your life, take more control over your mind, your emotions, and start creating your desired life. But can you kind of talk about how you were able to make that transition?
Okay, well, I was always interested in the metaphysical, even when I was 13 years old. And then I started drinking and partying because I was very sensitive. And in this sensitivity, I could read people, and I could feel things that other people couldn't feel. So I was told from the time I was young that you shouldn't feel. You're too sensitive. So when I discovered drugs and alcohol, guess what? I'm not too sensitive anymore. So for years I was drinking and partying, and it was a lot of fun. I had a good time. Okay, did a lot of things, had some adventures, but the day came when it quit working. Well, so I basically got miserable, and I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Drinking wasn't working. I never was an everyday drinker. I would quit for a couple of years, maybe when I was into sports or I was training for a fight. But I'd hit a bottom where nothing worked for me anymore. The boxing didn't work. I was hurt. I couldn't fight. Women didn't even make me feel good anymore. Everything failed me. All my crutches, drugs, alcohol, nothing. I couldn't get high anymore. It was just miserable. So I started looking for answers. And I'll be honest with you, I started looking in the Bible. I'm not a religious guy. And to me, the Bible is more of a metaphysical a story about the consciousness of every man. That's the way I view the Bible. Okay, so I started reading that, and I thought, man, they say if you do this, this is what happens to you. And I had done all this and all these things. I thought, there's a lot of truth in this. So I started studying that pretty profusely, I suppose I would say. And then I met some people that started mentoring me, and these people, they just wanted to help me. They didn't want anything from me, and they weren't religious people, didn't want me to join their church or anything like that. So they started helping me, and I started learning a new way to live. They gave me tools on how to deal with life, as where before I just drank. Somebody pissed me off, I drank. I was having a good day, I drank, or I did drugs or whatever. I wanted to go out and socialize, drink a few beers, I walk into the place like I owned it. And it worked because it allowed me to believe. If somebody rejected me, I don't care. The alcohol gave me, it was like a buffer for me. I didn't feel it. It didn't hurt. So it didn't matter to me. I didn't react to it. It didn't make me feel like I was less than. So that's why a lot of people like to have a few drinks. It's called the social lubricant before they go out and try to pick up girls. And that's fine, but you have to think, if you have to have a few drinks, and I'm not bad-mouthing anybody who does, that's not really who you are. You need to be able, and you can learn, you need to be able to do that without the drinks. Then you're presenting yourself to this woman as who you really are. You are the man. Because I'll tell you this, when I was out there scoring on women like that, I always said this, and it was true for me, a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you ever tell a woman how you really feel or let her know who you really are, she'll crap on you, she'll shit out on you. Well, of course, if I ever did that, that's what happened to me. So, but I would never show them. Now, we can't go, I disagree with this being vulnerable with women, all this, to a certain degree. Be vulnerable with your best friend, your buddy. Be a man with your best friend. You want to cry on your shoulder to your best friend or your mentor about losing your job, that's great. Don't do it with your woman, because they might tell you they want you to open up and be vulnerable. Now, I'm not telling you to be a stone or be so stoic that you have no emotions, but a woman doesn't know how to handle that. If she sees that as a weakness, and it just doesn't work. I've tried it, and I've read enough and talked to other people and studied enough and seen other people's lives too. You might get away with crying a little bit if your mother died, but it best not be much more than that. Or another example I use too. You have a family, wife, kids. You come home, you lost your job that day. How you're feeling is you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know if you're going to lose your house. You don't know if you're ever going to find a job that pays that much. The worst thing you can do is come home and tell your wife and kids, because they're depending on you to be strong. You got to be the rock, you got to be the mountain, and that's part of being masculine. That's your job as a man. Go cry to your buddy. He'll tell you to get off your ass and get out there and do something about it. You're okay. Get back up, dust yourself off, and keep going. And that's what I did all my life. I've been knocked down how many times. I don't really know why I get back up, but what is the alternative? How do you give up? I don't know how to give up. So that's being a man. A man gets back up and dusts himself off. And as I tell you that, I think about the kids in D-Day in Normandy. There were kids 16 and 17 years old storming that beach. You know, they didn't need a safe place. You know, they died out there on that beach, and they were willing to do it. Now, that's masculinity there.
Nice. So, what would you say to someone who, because you use the term metaphysics, and you're actually one of the people that kind of got me into looking into that world or that side of things. Can you kind of talk about what metaphysics is and how that has been beneficial for you in your life, and how it can be beneficial to other men, how it can help them be more successful, whether it's monetarily, whether it's personally, whether it's interpersonally, right?
Okay, metaphysics to me, just the definition I like that I read is beyond the physical. It's actually, to me, the same thing as spiritual. But when you say spiritual, it connotates a religious meaning to some people. So it's like, for example, let's say there's a woman's driving a car down the road, and it's a rainy night. Okay, and she has an accident at the intersection. Okay, most people look at it on the surface level. All right, well, it was a rainy night. She was driving the car down the road. Someone pulled out in front of her, and there was an accident. Okay, there's another level. She was driving the car down the road, and she was worried about her daughter or something, okay? And so she wasn't paying attention. Now, that's what people can't see that, okay? And that's why she had the accident, okay? But there's a deeper level. The metaphysical level is this. She'd been wanting a new car for a long time, but she couldn't afford it. So this is going on inside of her mind. She's thinking, well, I really want a new car. Maybe she's even looked at some new cars. So she's driving down the road at night, and she has an accident, and it's the other man's fault because he pulled out in front of her. And out of the settlement of this accident, she can buy herself a new car. Now, that's somewhat of an example of how that works. There's always a deeper meaning. Too many times we look at the evidence of the senses, and as you know, those many times are false. For example, you walk in the room and your girlfriend's in there, and you see her hugging this guy, and they're looking at each other in the eyes. You're like, I'm going to kick this guy's butt. But you don't know that it's her cousin that came in from out of town she hasn't seen for 5 years. There you go. So were your senses telling you the truth? No, they weren't. That's just an easy example, but there's many, many examples like that where we judge by the evidence of our senses. Now, of course, we have senses. We need to use them. I mean, I need to look at the steps when I walk down, of course, with my eyes, or I'm going to bust my ass. But the point is, everything has got a deeper level. Everything that happens to you, there's a deeper level where it comes from. Everything you see out here is an effect of the cause which lies within here. You get yourself right in here, and everything out there works out. But if you're messed up in here, you have confusion, problems, and trouble in the outer world. I've met many people, and I've worked with many people. Their life was a mess. When they start fixing the inside, clean up the past, the junk in the past, the people they've hurt, maybe they have some shame, some anger, maybe they've stolen from people. They go back and they make amends to these people. They admit their faults to other people. The secrets will kill you. Just as in the same way, the secrets that you have that you want to manifest, the good things, if you don't distribute them everywhere, the power of that secret grows within you. The same as if you have a secret you don't want anybody to know, that will destroy you, something you're ashamed of. It can be something that you didn't hurt anybody, but you would be ashamed if someone knew that. There isn't anything about me that at least one person, my mentor, knows everything about me. My accountability partner, so to speak, and that gives me freedom. I'm free from any shame or guilt or anything like that. So it's very important to clean up the inside. If you have a lot of trouble and you're having lack on the outside, you have a problem in here you need to deal with. It could be from your childhood. It could be from anything, but you have to look within to find it.
Got you. By the way, fellas, if y'all have any questions in regards to being a better version of yourself in regards to success monetarily, personally, interpersonally, anything, becoming more masculine, any questions you guys have, feel free to drop it in the comment section. Let me see if I have anything coming up for me.
Let me tell you,
yeah,
I was going to say one more thing on the metaphysical thing. A lot of people, when they talk about money, they want to think, well, you got to get into real estate, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to get an education, go back to college. These are all, how do I say? These are all good, but unless you have the consciousness of wealth in here, it doesn't matter what you do out there. The attitude, your attitude is so important. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but your attitude determines your altitude. Your ability to get along with other people, to be able to have relationships with people. You could be the most brilliant man in the world, but if you can't get along with people, you're not going to have much success. And that comes from socializing, from talking to everyone. I can talk to anyone, anywhere in the world. I mean, unless I can't speak their language. But my Spanish is not 100%. It's about 80, but I'm taking classes now. But I can have a good conversation with someone in Spanish. Okay? You just have to be able to just talk to people. It's so important because you never know who knows who. Every person you contact has a list, how many contacts, there's a study you can read, how many contacts they have, and then those contacts have contacts. And you never know where your next client, your next job, your next whatever is coming from. So, and that's a good example for guys when I tell them to go out and talk to people. I say, talk to the old woman at the produce stand. Let's say you went up and talked to the old woman at the produce stand. You think, why do I want to talk to her, man? She's old, she's ugly, I sure am not want to go out with her. Well, let's say you do that just to practice your social skills. Take a genuine interest in her. I'll guarantee you she has an interesting life. but you have to be genuinely interested. So you talk to her, right? You don't know. She may have a granddaughter that's beautiful or a daughter that's beautiful. You have no idea. But you don't want to go up there with that in mind, because then you're trying to get something. Go out there and try to give something. As I told you, when I was in my apartment at 29 or 30 years old by myself, I had always tried to get. And I got a lot of stuff. Some was good, some was bad. But what I've learned in life now is whatever you want in life, give it away. Give it away. You want to be understood? Give understanding away. Try to understand other people. You want to be loved? Be loving to other people. Now, love doesn't, to me, love is a verb. That doesn't mean so much hugging and kissing and I'm in love. The enamorado, I think is the word in Spanish, or I forgot what it's called in English. But it's the action of love. I mean, let's say you're, a good example. Nowadays, you're in a red light, right? Okay, and somebody's car is broke down. Get out and push that guy's car off the road. I see people drive by all the time. They won't help anybody anymore. Get out and do something like that. It's not going to hurt you. Do things for other people. Take an old woman's cart back at Walmart. I mean, there's all kinds. Put yourself out there. Give to the universe, and the universe will give back to you more than you ever gave it. Too many people get up in the morning thinking, what am I going to get? For example, I want to get some followers. I want to get some subscribers. There's a good example there. How about, what can you give your subscribers? What can you give your followers? Like right now, you're giving them some value, or at least that's your intention. And the universe goes by your intention. The world judges us by our actions, but the universe, or God, whatever you choose to call it, goes by your intentions of what you try to do. So give to the world, and the world will get back to you in abundant measure.
Got you. So would you say that's basically, because my other question was going to be how, let's say someone had this specific question, like, how do you manifest, for example, your dream girl, right? Is it pretty much similar to what you just finished saying?
Think of the characteristics of the girl more so than her appearance. But, I mean, if you like a certain type, for me, I like a thin girl. I like young girls. I like girls that are like an Olympic sprinter. That's what I like. Probably because I was about how my mom was a great basketball player, so she was in shape, about 5'6", 130 pounds. So I like girls that are really in shape. So what I would do, and what I would tell someone is, think about your ideal woman, what she looks like, of course, but the characteristics also of her. And another thing I tell people is, okay, you want a woman that's patient, kind, understanding, loving. Are you those things? Are you those things? See, that's what I'm saying. You can't expect to attract something if you're not that. You're only going to attract what you are. What you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you're saying. And as I said, women are very intuitive. You can come up here with all these player tactics, but she's going to see right through you. And you may pick her up and you may get laid one night. But I'll tell you what, you're both going to be disappointed if you're presenting her something, it's like false advertisement, that you're not. If you just want to get laid, that's fine. But I'll guarantee you, as time goes by, if you continue to do that, you will end up in a place of emptiness within yourself because you're trying to get. You cannot live that way for long without ending up feeling pretty hollow and empty. It's pretty superficial. But I mean, a man in your 20s, I understand how it is. It's a little different. You get a little older, you want a little more profundity, a little more depth, I suppose.
All right, cool, man. So is there any new insight you could share with us, like maybe something you've been studying or researching that you think would be of a lot of value if men were to understand or comprehend or apply to their lives right now? Anything like that?
I think of something Jim Rohn said. I like this. You're never going to get paid more than you're getting paid now until you do more than you're getting paid for now. Now that works like magic. But now somebody will answer that, well, I don't like my boss. If I go in there 20 minutes early and leave 10 minutes late, he's not going to notice. They don't care about me. And that could be very true. But there's a bigger boss that sees that does care about you. Like I said, call that whatever, put whatever name on that you want. You cannot give without it coming back to you. This is like magic. I use this in my business, and I've done it for the last, since I heard it 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I always do more than I'm getting paid for. Now, sometimes, like this last job I did, it was one of the biggest jobs we've ever had. And the head man was down there, and I said, I'm going to put a second coat on it. I wasn't required by the specs. But then after I said that, I'm thinking, oh, shit, I wish I hadn't have said that. But this is a big job, so I'm doing a big extra. I kept having in my mind, God, I wish I hadn't have said that. Man, we would have been done. I would have made this much money. But I had to stop that. Your willpower is there for you to control your thoughts, because if you can control your thinking, you can control your life. So I eliminated that, and I would put a picture in my head of finishing the job up, getting the second coat done. It worked out really good, and we still made a great profit, which is how it ended up. Now, if I would have continued to think the way I was, the job could have got delayed. I wasn't sure if I could get it done before the weather got bad, but we did. We had plenty of time. But the point I'm making here is always do something extra. Always do extra. Do more than you're getting paid for, because it has to come back to you. But now don't expect it back from the person you give it to. I don't expect anything back from these people at all. Nothing. Okay, except for the money they owe me, of course. But that will come back to me abundantly down the road. And I've been practicing this, and it's like magic. It is just amazing. Just try it. Try it more than once. Do it until you see results.
Yes, brother. Yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on and showing your wisdom upon us. When I got into approach and into the pickup world, I focused on the inner game. I wasn't very interested in the outer game. I focused on the inner game, and that's why I resonate with a lot of the things you say, your content, your book, everything. I truly believe everything is, all the answers are within, all the power is within, which I think is great, because then that basically gives us an opportunity to make change. We don't have to wait on somebody else to come in, or wait on some external event.
Yeah, we're not victims. We're not. We're only victims of our own thinking. We're only limited by the limits we set upon ourselves. We are taught limitations. We're only born with two fears: the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. So everything else you and I are afraid of, we've learned that.
Yeah. So, can you kind of tell us, how we can get in contact with you, if we want more information or more advice, more wisdom? Also, if how people can get your books, and also if you're providing any coaching or any opportunities right now for guys, you could definitely give us some information on that.
Yes, you can check out my website at marksinspiration.com, and my books are available on Amazon. Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels, and The Power is Within. And I have a YouTube channel, Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. I have about, I don't even have one myself. I have to order some more, and I have one of those left. And I have a YouTube channel, Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. I have about 430 YouTube videos that you can listen to for free and gain something out of those.
All right, perfect, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Fellas, thank you for watching. Thank you for coming on to this interview, and I'll see y'all on the next videos. Peace.
My pleasure. Thank you.